Welcome back, everyone, to the Discraft Great Lakes Open. This is round 2 coverage. This coverage is brought to you guys by my Patreons and also to GKPro, who gave me this footage. So thank you guys both so much. I really appreciate it. So after the first round, I shot a 5 under par. It felt pretty good, but I still had quite a few competitors close by. I will be joined by Katrina Allen, Kona Panis, and Jessica Weiss on the second round, and they're just 2 strokes behind me. So I talked about in round 1 that I'm not really thinking about scores, but going into round 2, obviously you already know what everybody started at. So in my mind, I try to play a game where I try to keep the box, and I'll try to count how many times that I had the tee box. And that kind of helps me to not think about the holes so much, but more so just this little challenging game kind of. So hole 1 is 477 feet. It's straight downhill, and it does veer off to the right. If you go too far to the right, you're kind of hindered in this bush, but if you don't turn it enough, you are going to find OB on the left. So it's a very touchy shot. I'm trying to decide between my soul and my buzz, and I really want to throw the soul, but if it was windy, I told myself I was going to go buzz. I turned this one a little bit too much, and I'm going to be way over to the right behind all the tree line. So from here, I'm throwing a sidearm. This is with my zone, and I don't quite get it wide enough, and it clips a branch, and I'm going to find myself just outside the circle to try to save a par. So definitely not where I wanted to be on my drive, and my upshot wasn't quite that good, but I kept a level head and told myself I do still have a look at par. Just calm down. Don't think about it as being a long putt. Just try to get the par. Going into hole 2, it's straight back up the hill we just threw down. It's 435 feet. It's a par 4. And if you can get farther than where these guys are, right up about here where it starts getting flat, that is my optimal distance, where then I can throw a standstill approach at the basket. And the second shot is blind. You still can't see the basket no matter how far you get up there. So, or at least I've never been able to throw it as far enough to see the basket. So I'm just trying to throw it as far as I can with my Surge SS, nice and flat. I'm not trying to get it too much of a hyzer or too much turn, just a nice neutral flight. And like I said, I will be able to stand still from here. And this really allows my speed coming into the green to be really ideal. I'm just going to be under the basket, especially on this elevated basket. I don't really want to have a putt. So this is a good birdie to pick up here, move myself to 6 under, and move into hole 3, where we will again throw back down the hill. So the OB on this one is pretty far over to the left. You do have this little bailout section right where the sun starts. And the OB wall or the wall that you see on the right side isn't OB. It's just a sponsor wall. It's not OB. But if you're on the right side in these trees, you are absolutely punished. They're very tight. They're thorny. There's not really a good way out of them. You kind of just have to pitch out. So number 1 objective here is to keep it flat and keep it in the fairway. I had a pretty errant shot on round 1, so I am definitely thinking about it in this moment. I'm telling myself, don't go to the right, and I overcompensate and early release it. But you can see I'm trying to call it into the center of the fairway. It started to roll, and yeah, this was actually a beneficial roll. I'm in the fairway now. So I am still in the tall grass, but I have enough room to throw a full shot with my buzz here. It's flexing out into the center of the fairway, and I have a simple approach from here. Just got to read the distance correctly. This is my fierce, just a little bit short. I'm just inside circle 2. Misjudged that distance there. Really regretting not using the rangefinder on that one. I should have just used it, known for sure what the distance was, and thrown the accurate distance. But I will settle for a par there, and I'm happy with that. So I am still 1 under par, saving that par right there. And we got Heather Young 2 under from the second card. But again, at this point, Cat Merch is also 3 under, which is a great start to her round. But I haven't really checked scores that much right now. Again, my thought is just keeping the box. So hole 4, 508 feet. It's a par 4. It's dead straight for 90% of the shot. And then the last 10% is right up this hill and dog legs to the right. I'm not really thinking about that currently. What I'm thinking about is throwing the roller and making sure I get a good angle. It will finish to the right. I just need to make sure I get the right angle today, because in round 1, I put it down too steep and it cut over into the woods line on the right. So I want to make sure I'm down a little bit quicker. And this one was even worse. I just really late released it. The angle on the ground was good, but it just came out of my hand late. I do still like the roller, though. I will still throw it round 3 because I know it's the right shot. It makes the fairway bigger as well. So trying to tell myself what I did wrong so that I know how to correct it in round 3. And I'm just trying to take my medicine here. I couldn't get up and around the corner, so I will just have to settle for a par if I can hit this 20-foot tester putt back up at the basket. Really weird footing here. Finds me a little bit off balance, and I can't quite connect. I didn't push up on my back leg and get it up over the rim, so I will settle for a bogey there and move back down to 5 under. Hole 5 is 300 feet. It's a par 3. And this one also dog legs to the right. You're going to be going up this hill and under these low-hanging branches. So it's a very tight gap that you do have to turn over quite early. If you don't get tight enough through this gap and you hit a branch, it's likely to fall back down that hill. So I'm trying to throw my soul because I know it's going to get that late flip and glide over. As long as I release it at the right time, it is a good shape for this shot. So I loved this one right through the gap that I intended. And like I said, perfect disc for this hole as long as I hit the gap. So this is to get a birdie and get that understroke back. We did have a question because one of my card mates hit my disc and moved it. So I'm playing a provisional here just in case, because we weren't sure on the ruling if you should move your disc back to where it was or if it stays where the person moved it to. And after playing the provisional, it didn't matter. I made both putts, but after playing the provisional, just for you guys to reference, you are supposed to move it back if you saw it move. Hole 6, 540 feet. It's a par 4. This one, I play it differently. I throw a putter to right where Reed was, just in the blue shirt right there. And then my second shot is the aggressive play. I've learned that if I go aggressive off the tee, it's going to hyzer out down that hill on the left side, and it kind of prevents you from getting that birdie 3. So I'm throwing my Banger GT here. Just trying to throw it soft and smooth. And a little bit too soft. It's not going to get all the way up the hill, and it's going to be a little bit blocked behind that tree, but there is still this gap. So I'm going to try to be aggressive here still and throw through it. But a little bit of a late release on an uphill run up, and I kick way over to the right. And this is a spot that I've never been before. I had no idea what I was getting into. But I was happy to see that there was a gap at the basket. So this is a banger from about 250. And I'm going to be just inside the circle on the left side. And here's a tester to save par on an elevated basket. And I was super excited to hit this one out of position on the first 2 shots, and really even still probably a putt I should not have ran, but I was feeling good on the putting green. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. If I feel good when I get up to the putt, I run it. If I'm feeling any sort of doubt, I'll lay it up. All right, we're going into hole 7 now. It's 390 feet. It's a par 4. Last year, I had a hard time even getting the par on this one. I was trying to lay up to right about here with a putter, and then it challenged this corner afterwards. But that soft, touchy shot was too hard to control. I was finding myself throwing it OB on the left side, even when I was trying to lay up. So this year, I'm trying a new route. I'm going with a Zeus wide over the bushes on the right side and trying to get an eagle look. Actually, this takes all out of bounds out of play, but if I throw it with too much hyzer, I am going to be in those trees and scrambling. But this is why I'm doing this. Look at this putt. This is for an eagle, and I swear it was in the basket. It was all the way in and came out. That one is a heartbreaker right there. Oh, even the slow-mo to show it again. But it is still a birdie, so that's something to hold myself to. I know it was a bummer that it didn't stick in, but I got an understroke and I'm moving the right direction on the scoreboard. So hole 8's 462 feet. It's a par 3. This one is completely blind, and like I talked about in round 1, I aimed it just a tiny bit too wide. So today I'm thinking, okay, a little bit more inside. I'm using a visual cue from yesterday and just trying to get that same spiky hyzer with that Zeus and hopefully get a putt today. So this one you can see is traveling quite a bit farther left, and I get inside the gap. This is the closest I've ever been on this hole. Those trees definitely block your forward progress, but I was able to spike it through there and card another birdie. So I'm now up to 8 under par. And we're moving into the last hole of the front 9. This one's 428 feet. It's a par 3. This one's pretty tough to get a putt on. It's low ceiling and it's uphill, so vertically your target is really small. I'm just trying to punch it right at my head height and just barely crest that hill and keep it under those branches. I'm just trying to throw it as far as I can with my understable Zeus and see what happens. You guys can see that cameraman on my left right there. I'm very, very, very thankful that they are out there filming. But in this moment right here, it got in my head. I was telling myself, don't hit the cameraman. And I late released, and I'm going to be having to throw a step out, sidearm, and hyzer just to try to get up there and save par. I actually thought that shot was beautiful, but I didn't realize I left it a little bit short. And again, a little bit weird stance right there. That was kind of the problem of round 1. And again, so far in round 2, I keep finding myself a little bit off balance on these tester putts. So I'll card the bogey there, but I will also take a lesson. Make sure you straddle out when you feel a little bit off balance. Practice my straddles in the morning. Feel good about my straddle putt because it will come in handy on these elevated greens. Hole 10, it's 370 feet. It's a par 3. This one is very difficult. It is hard to get the 2 on at least. It's kind of a hole you want to break down into 2 parts. For me, I'm trying to throw a fierce to right about here and then another fierce up to the basket and just play for the par. It's really hard to get one up there, but I was on the bottom of the box and Katrina threw a nice big anhyzer, and I told myself, I can do that. It looked easy. I can do that. So I grab my surge and I try to throw the big anhyzer, and I slip on the tee and it goes straight up in the air, and I'm going to be over left in the tall grass, but I am close to pin high, so I can see the basket. Now I just have to keep it low. So I'm going with the sidearm here for the low, fast skip into the green. And this is something I definitely want to talk about because it's not something I do very often where I adjust my game plan based on a competitor. But I did also practice that shot in practice. It just didn't go super well. So my percentages weren't good, so I decided to go with the fierce layup. But when I saw Katrina do it and the wind was down, I told myself, okay, if any of the days are going to work out, today's the day. And even with that slip and it going a little bit nose up, it worked out. So I told myself if there is no wind again in day 3, I will try it again. Hole 11 is straight uphill, 318 feet. It's a par 3 that is definitely gettable for the longer distance throwers. So I feel like I have an advantage on this hole as long as I can keep this Surge SS straight. I don't want to get it any bit to the right out of my hands because it does find those trees on the right side. And this was a beautifully thrown shot. I was very happy with this one. And we'll have a tap-in birdie on hole 11. Hole 12, back downhill, 534 feet, par 4. This toboggan course, if you guys haven't noticed yet, is very up and down and side slopes, every kind of slope you can imagine. We are getting a workout and trying to control our nose angles. So this is a really challenging course that I love so much. This hole, it kind of gives you a risk reward option. You can get up there for an eagle, but it's very challenging to make sure you can turn it enough that late in the flight. For me, I don't feel like I have that shot right now, so I'm throwing my Banger GT just dead straight, trying to throw it at the cameraman, but it comes out just a little bit early, and I'm going to find that bush on the left side. And from here, I do have a step out shot, but this is going to have to be very good to get up there. I turn my Zeus just a tiny bit too much and it goes into the ground. I will be left outside circle 2, and I need to get this up and down to save the par. This is one where par does not feel that good. It's definitely an easy birdie if you break the hole down correctly, and my game plan is really good for this hole. I just slight misfire off the tee there. Heather Young's making a charge from the second card. She's 4 under through 13 holes, so she's making a move up. Might see her on the feature card on day 3 if she can finish out strong. But right now, I'm not really worried about anybody else. I'm just trying to get through these last few holes with a couple birdies, and I know that I've put another good round together. Hole 13, 516 feet. It's a par 4. This one's straight up the hill. And again, it's similar to hole 2, where if you can get it far enough uphill, you can throw a standstill shot. Very similar also in the fact that you still can't see the basket even if you have a very good drive. So this one definitely benefits the player who has practiced more and knows exactly where the basket is because there's no visual on the basket. So this is my Surge SS, big distance driver, neutral flight, doesn't turn or hyzer too much, so I'm getting as far forward as I can. I really love that about this disc. And from here, I'm just slightly farther than I wanted to be, so I'm throwing a 2-step run up, and I get myself up around the corner this time, but slightly tucked under those branches. I will capitalize on the birdie putt though, and I feel good about that one. Yesterday, I threw it a little bit too inside and could not capitalize on that putt, so feels good to make that correction and grab the birdie. Hole 14, 375 feet downhill, par 3. It is one that's very tricky to get inside 20 feet. I see a lot of people get inside this gap right here, but from there, it's definitely not a gimme. You have to get close because there's so many big trees blocking the basket. So my thought is to go really wide. As you guys could see, on the right side of the basket looked a little bit more open. So I'm trying to come in on the back of the green. So I'm throwing my most overstable Raptor really hard and wide so I get that late fade in. Now watch this thing start drifting. And I am on the back side, outside the circle, but that is where I was hoping for because there is an open look. This is just outside the circle. and just barely high enough to get it in. I was super excited about this one. This one I feel like is a bonus birdie for me just because how hard it is to get close. So this one felt really good, and I moved up to double digits. Hole 15, 400 feet, par 3. This one I think might be my favorite hole on the course. It has this initial downhill drop, but at the end, right where the basket is uphill right about circle 2's edge. So you have to throw it at least 330 feet to have a putt. But those players that can push that 400-foot marker can get themselves a quite a bit closer putt. So I really like how this one is shaped. Pretty dead straight, but you really have to focus on your nose angle. Otherwise, that downhill or uphill could send you off to the left. So this is my Surge SS, just dead straight, neutral flight, and it skips up to the top of the hill. I'm going to have about a 15 to 20 foot putt to the left. And again, look at this stance here. And I will admit, I was thinking about all those other putts. I was thinking, should I go to a straddle? No, it's a short putt. Just go ahead and putt it. And didn't give it enough time and thought. And I just rushed the putt. And I feel really, really sad about that one. But it is still a par. So trying to hold my head high. I did just card 2 great birdies before that. So like I told myself walking up to 13, I just need a couple birdies. So trying to tell myself that's okay, but I am still partially sad and wanting to get that putt back. Hole 16, 354 feet, par 3. This one is dead straight with a very narrow gap horizontally. It does play downhill a little bit, but it's not really too far downhill where I'm thinking about that too much. I'm throwing my buzz here, and I'm just trying to punch it through that gap nice and flat. And honestly, just came out quite a bit late. And I'm going to punch through those trees a little bit on the right side. And I do kind of have a putt, but it's from about 75 feet. I am going to give this one a little bit of a bid on the turnover angle. And it was close. I wasn't one that I was expecting to hit, so I'm not upset about that at all. Par is good here, especially after that drive. Hole 17, this one's a lot of fun, and I carded the eagle yesterday, so I am thinking about that right now as well. It's 755 feet, it's a par 5, and you guys saw I tried to get a little too much distance and carried that right side, so I had to go the backdoor route. Today I'm hoping to not challenge that right side as much. I'm trying to get a little bit more left so I can go straight at the basket on my second shot. But if I go too far left, there is out of bounds. So those 2 discs in my hand are both Zeus's. The one I'm dropping right now is the more stable one. So I'm actually going with the straighter Zeus here, knowing I might turn it over a little bit too much, but okay with that because I do not want to be OB. This one's even more turned over than the day before though, and I'm going to be in the tall bushes on the right side. So this is a very difficult run up here, and I did practice the run up with my follow through hitting that bush. It didn't hurt my hand, so I told myself to fully commit, but I just let it go a little bit early, and I'll be left with this 280-foot approach to get up and down to hopefully save the 4 still. And I do have a putt for birdie from about 15 feet. So not quite an eagle, but I will happily take this birdie and move on to the last hole of the round at 11 under par so far. There is one more birdie opportunity here on 18, but it takes a very, very demanding shot. So you have to throw through that tight gap and then up this steep hill, making sure to turn it over enough. If you don't, you will be OB where these people are standing. But if you turn it too much, you're going to be into the tree line on the right, and that is very difficult to get up and down because it makes the shot blind from there. This is my Avenger SS, looking to throw it on a hyzer flip and really trust the angle. A little bit too inside. I'm going to clip the last branches on the right, but since it's so far up there, I'm just barely outside circle 1 and won't be too tricky to get up and down. Actually had a look at the basket, a nose up look under that branch, and almost hit it, but I will settle for par if I can tap this 15-footer in. And there it is, the end of round 2. I shot an 11. I'm at 11 under par, which means I shot 6 under, 1 better than my previous round, so I feel good about the improvement there. I did have some putts that I messed up on, as you guys saw, so I know that I can even do better in round 3, and I'm going to have to shoot a good round because Katrina Allen isn't that far behind me. So my thoughts going into the final round are to focus on those putts and really give them time and maybe even straddle out. So thank you guys for watching. I hope these inside looks are entertaining to you guys and informative. And make sure you guys subscribe if you want to be alerted when round 3 drops. Thank you guys so much to my Patreons and to GK Pro